The impossible bond. The archives of the Galactic Council contained meticulous records of first contact scenarios with thousands of species across 27 galaxies. None of those records prepared senior xenobiologist Taln Vex for what they discovered on Earth. Taln Vex adjusted their atmospheric filter as the Council's survey ship entered Earth's orbit. As the lead researcher of the Elder Race's most prestigious xenobiological survey team, they had categorized life on over 300 planets. Earth was supposed to be a routine assignment: catalog the dominant species, assess their development level, and determine if they were ready for formal contact with the galactic community. Preliminary scans complete, announced Mira, the ship's analytical intelligence, detecting significant technological advancement, atmospheric modification, and extensive reshaping of natural systems. Typical for pre-interstellar civilizations, Taln Vex noted, their outer membranes rippling with mild interest. What about the dominant species' behavioral patterns? A pause. Anomaly detected, Mira replied. Dominant species appears to cohabitate with natural predators. Taln Vex's neural clusters pulsed with confusion. Clarify. The dominant species, classified as humans, share living spaces with various predatory species that have been genetically modified over generations. The research team exchanged confused glances. Elix, a junior researcher from the aquatic world of Thessia, emitted bubbles of distress through her respiratory sacs. That's impossible, she said. No sentient species would willingly live alongside predators. The risks would be. We should investigate directly, interrupted Taln Vex, always the empiricist. Prepare the observation drones. The drones deployed across Earth's varied landscapes, transmitting their findings back to the stunned research team. The first footage came from a structure classified as a suburban home in a region called North America. The researchers watched in silence as a human female entered the dwelling, calling out something that Mira translated as an affectionate greeting. A large quadrupedal predator with sharp teeth and powerful jaws bounded toward her. Several of the researchers flinched, anticipating violence. Instead, the predator, identified as a dog, a descendant of wolves, wagged its tail and pressed against the human. The human knelt down, making herself more vulnerable, and embraced the creature. This must be some form of dominance display, suggested Vrax, the team's behavioral specialist. The human is asserting control. But as they watched more footage, this explanation became increasingly untenable. Humans weren't just controlling these predators, they were bonding with them, forming emotional attachments, treating them as family members. One particularly disturbing clip showed a small human child sleeping peacefully next to a large dog. The predator was positioned protectively, its body language suggesting it would defend the vulnerable human against threats. They've inverted the predator-prey relationship, whispered Elix, her chromatophores paling with shock. This defies every evolutionary principle we understand. The anomalies only multiplied as the drones gathered more data. Humans kept smaller felines, perfect killing machines with retractable claws and night vision. In their homes, they allowed these predators to sit on their laps, sleep on their beds, and even fed them from their own food supplies. This requires direct investigation, Taln Vex decided. Prepare for surface contact. The research team established a discreet observation post disguised as a new pet supply store in a moderately populated area. Their disguises, crafted to resemble humans, allowed them to interact directly with the local population and their domesticated predators. The first human to enter their store brought a cat, a sleek, predatory feline with golden eyes and sharp claws. Taln Vex, disguised as the store proprietor, approached cautiously. "What a beautiful companion," they said, using the translation protocols. The human beamed with pride. "This is Whiskers. She's a rescue. Had her for 3 years now." Taln Vex extended a sensor disguised as a hand, expecting the predator to react with aggression. Instead, the creature made a vibrating sound, purring. according to their database, and allowed itself to be touched. "She likes you," the human said, smiling. Over the following weeks, the research team documented hundreds of human-predator interactions. They discovered humans kept not just cats and dogs, but also serpents, birds of prey, and even exotic predators from distant parts of their world. What truly stunned the researchers was the archaeological evidence. Humans hadn't just recently begun this practice. They had been modifying predator species for companionship for thousands of years. They started with wolves, explained Vrax during their nightly research conference, over 15,000 years ago, by their calendar. They selectively bred them for specific traits: reduced aggression, increased sociability, enhanced responsiveness to human commands. "You're describing systematic genetic manipulation," said Elix, her tentacles writhing with distress. "Before they even developed written language." "Precisely," said Vrax. "And not just with canines. They've done this with numerous predator species. They've manipulated apex hunters into companions, protectors, and working partners." The implications were staggering. In the known galaxy, even the most advanced civilizations approached dangerous organisms with appropriate caution. The elder races had established protocols for containing and studying predatory species, but the concept of deliberately bringing them into living spaces was unthinkable. Yet humans did it casually. They celebrated it. "There's more," Talmvex said, activating a holographic display. "They have entire cultural institutions built around these relationships." The display showed competitions where humans paraded their modified predators, events called dog shows, and cat exhibitions. It showed healing centers where predators were brought to comfort sick humans. It displayed educational facilities where young humans were taught to care for and bond with various creatures. "We need to understand how they're controlling these animals," said Vrax. "Some form of neural manipulation, chemical control." But further investigation revealed something even more unsettling. The humans weren't controlling these predators through technology or coercion. They had achieved this remarkable feat through something they called love and trust, emotional bonds that somehow transcended species barriers. One evening, as the research team was closing their storefront, an elderly human entered with a small dog. The creature was clearly in the final stages of its life cycle, moving with difficulty. "I know you're closing," the human said, his voice trembling, "but do you have any supplements that might help with joint pain? My buddy here is 15, and I want to make his last months comfortable." Talmvex, still disguised as the store owner, observed the human's distress signals: increased ocular fluid, vocal tremors, elevated respiratory rate. "You are sad," they observed. "He's been with me through everything," the human explained, gently stroking the ancient predator. "My divorce, cancer, losing my parents. He's more than a pet. He's family." After the human left with some supplements, the research team gathered in stunned silence. "They form grief attachments to predators," whispered Elix. "They mourn them as they would mourn their own kind." Talmvex's neural pathways fired in rapid succession, struggling to integrate this data with their understanding of universal constants. In all their centuries of xenobiological research, they had never encountered a species that could so fundamentally reshape their relationship with natural predators. "We need to report this to the Council immediately," they decided. "Humans aren't just another pre-interstellar species. They demonstrated an ability that no other known species possesses. They can forge emotional bonds with predators and reshape them through these bonds over generations." As Talmvex prepared their report, they couldn't help but wonder what this meant for humanity's future role in the galactic community. A species that could look at a natural enemy and see a potential friend was unlike anything in the Council's archives. And perhaps most disturbing of all, the research team was beginning to understand the appeal of these human pets. Elix had been observed spending increasing amounts of time with a cat that frequented their observation post. Vrax had started carrying treats for the neighborhood dogs. The implications were both fascinating and terrifying. If humans could do this with the predators of Earth, What might they do when they encountered the predatory species of other worlds? Or more concerning still, what might they do when they met the elder races themselves? The Predator Whisperers. The emergency session of the Elder Council was unprecedented. Representatives from 17 ancient civilizations gathered in the vast chamber, their various biological forms shimmering under the pale light of the Council's orbital station. High Counselor Janora, whose species had achieved interstellar travel when humans were still painting on cave walls, called the session to order. "We have received the preliminary report from senior xenobiologist Talnvex regarding the species known as humans," she announced, her crystalline form refracting light in patterns that conveyed deep concern. "The findings are disturbing." Talnvex approached the center of the chamber, neural pathways still struggling to process everything they had witnessed on Earth. The observational data began playing on the massive display behind them. Humans interacting with various predators, embracing them, playing with them, treating them as family members. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the assembly. "As you can see," began Talnvex, "humans have developed a relationship with predatory species that defies our understanding of evolutionary dynamics. They have selectively bred wolves, pack hunters that once preyed on their ancestors, into companions that they call dogs. They have formed similar bonds with felines, birds of prey, and even venomous reptiles." Counselor Nexbala, a gaseous entity contained within an environmental suit, pulsed with agitation. "This must be some form of advanced neural technology. No species would naturally form attachments to predators." "That was our initial hypothesis," replied Talnvex. "But our investigation revealed that humans began this process approximately 15,000 years ago, long before they developed advanced technology. They did this through selective breeding, and what they call bonding, a process of mutual trust development." The display showed footage of humans training various predators, dogs retrieving objects, cats responding to vocal commands, birds of prey returning to human arms. "Most concerning," continued Talnvex, "is that these relationships aren't based on dominance or fear. The predators genuinely form attachment bonds with humans. They will protect humans, even at the cost of their own lives." The council chamber erupted with questions and expressions of disbelief. High Counselor Janora raised her crystalline appendages for silence. "What are the implications of this ability?" she asked. Talnvex's outer membranes rippled with the gravity of their response. "Humans appear to possess a unique capacity to forge emotional connections across species barriers. They can recognize, interpret, and respond to the emotional states of entirely different biological organisms. They can communicate their intentions to these creatures and understand the intentions communicated back to them. And they'd weaponized this ability," added Vrax, who had joined the mission to Earth. The display shifted to show military working dogs, search and rescue teams, and therapy animals. "They've created partnerships with predator species that enhance their own capabilities. Dogs that can detect explosives or find survivors in disaster zones. Birds that assist in hunting. Predators that serve as extensions of human will." A heavy silence fell over the council chamber. "There's more," said Talnvex reluctantly. "Humans have created an entire cultural complex around these relationships. They have medical specialists dedicated to healing predator species. They create art, literature, and entertainment centered on their bonds with these creatures. Many humans express greater attachment to their animal companions than to members of their own species." The display showed humans grieving for deceased pets, elaborate memorial services, and monuments dedicated to working animals who had died in service. "This is a fundamental paradigm shift," concluded Talnvex. "In all our millennia of cataloging life throughout the galaxy, we have never encountered a species that could transform predators into companions through emotional bonding. This ability suggests humans possess empathic capabilities beyond anything we've observed." High Counselor Janora's crystalline form dimmed with concern. "What do you recommend, senior xenobiologist?" Talnvex hesitated. Protocol dictated clear responses for encountering new species: categorize, assess, and determined the appropriate level of interaction. But humans defied categorization. I believe humans represent both an opportunity and a potential concern, they finally said. Their ability to form cross-species bonds could make them valuable members of the galactic community. However, this same ability makes them unpredictable. They don't see predatory species as threats to be contained or eliminated. They see potential companions. Are you suggesting, asked Counselor Nexvala, their gaseous form swirling with agitation, that humans might attempt to befriend dangerous species from other worlds? Based on observed patterns, yes, confirmed Tolmvex. They would likely attempt to understand, communicate with, and potentially form bonds with any species they encounter, including those we've classified as too dangerous for contact. The implications weren't lost on the Council. Throughout the galaxy, there were predatory species so dangerous they had been quarantined on their home planets, beings that the elder races had determined could never be safely integrated into the galactic community. Humans might disagree with that assessment. There is one more factor to consider, added Elix, stepping forward. Her chromatophores shifted with embarrassment as she revealed a small creature cradled in her tentacles, a cat that had been part of their Earth observations. This is Luna, she explained. She began frequenting our observation post, and I formed an attachment. The Council stared in shock as the predator nuzzled against Elix's tentacles, purring contentedly. Our research team has discovered that the human ability to form bonds with predators may be contagious, admitted Tolmvex. Several of our members have developed attachments to Earth's predator species. I believe this suggests that humans possess an approach to interspecies relationships that transcends our current understanding. High Counselor Janora contemplated this information, her crystalline structure pulsing with deep thought. What would happen, she asked slowly, if humans encountered the Vexmore? The chamber grew tense at the mention of the Vexmore, a predatory hive intelligence that had nearly destroyed 3 civilizations before the elder races had contained them on their home world. Based on established patterns, answered Tolmvex, humans would likely attempt to communicate with them, to understand them, possibly even to form some kind of bond. And might they succeed where we failed? Pressed Janora. Tolmvex's neural clusters pulsed with uncertainty. Unknown, but their approach would certainly be different from ours. Where we see a threat to be contained, they might see a potential relationship to be developed. The Council deliberated for 3 full cycles, reviewing the research team's findings and debating the implications. Finally, High Counselor Janora announced their decision. Humanity's relationship with predator species represents a paradigm we have not encountered before. Their empathic abilities and their willingness to form bonds with potential threats makes them unique among known sentient species. She paused, her crystalline form shimmering with the weight of the decision. We hereby reclassify humans from pre-interstellar developing species to anomalous empathic species. Formal contact will be initiated, but with careful protocols. We must understand this ability better before fully integrating humans into the galactic community. As the Council session concluded, Tolmvex found themselves standing beside Elix, who was still cradling the cat she had brought from Earth. I still don't fully understand it, admitted Tolmvex, cautiously extending a sensory appendage toward the creature. The cat sniffed it, then rubbed against it, causing unfamiliar sensations to cascade through Tolmvex's neural networks. Perhaps that's what makes humans dangerous, replied Elix, or valuable. They don't just adapt to their environment. They'd form relationships with it. They don't just overcome predators. They befriend them. As if to emphasize her point, Luna began to purr, the vibrations resonating through Elix's tentacles and somehow making the vast alien council chamber feel just a little more like home. Tolmvex felt a new emotion stirring in their neural clusters, something like the human concept of wonder. The galaxy has existed for billions of years, they mused. Thousands of civilizations have risen and fallen. The elder races have explored countless worlds. And yet it took a species from a small blue planet to show us that perhaps the greatest evolutionary strategy isn't to fight predators or flee from them, but to befriend them. In the vast archives of the Galactic Council, a new entry was created for humanity. Among their many classifications and notations, one stood out. Humans, the predator whisperers, approach with caution and an open mind.